Welcome to the Positive Growth Doctor podcast for women. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. I created the Positive Growth Doctor after years of dealing with societal expectations, self-doubt, and perfectionism. I leveraged my 30 years of experience as a positive psychologist to address limiting beliefs and gain clarity to build confidence and navigate obstacles to achieve a healthier well-being. I knew that pain all too well, so I empower women to achieve confidence and live a positive-centered life. Subscribe to the podcast and check out the earlier episodes so you don't miss a thing. And let's get to it. Welcome to another episode of the Positive Growth Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. Emotions are universal. We all have them. Even if we're told that they're icky or dirty, emotions are actually normal. Yet society tells us, oh, you shouldn't be mad. Don't cry. Or shouldn't you be over that by now? Like TikTok? Well, after all, emotions are all in your head, right? They're not. You heard me right. Emotions are not all in your head. And sometimes we ask ourselves, well, why did I react a certain way to something when another person that was in a similar situation reacted totally different? Or why didn't I react the right way? Well, there is no right or wrong way. Okay? So in this episode, we explore the origins of emotion and how to handle them in a way that serves you well in the end. The goal is to grow from the difficulties because the difficulties are going to happen, right? And I'm going to show you how. So find the full transcript for this episode on your favorite podcast app. And please share the podcast with other women to help them grow on their journey too. And you can also do this by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's very helpful, and I appreciate you. So, societal expectations are different for women when it comes to how we feel and how we experience the world. And researchers have found that women are much more expressive when it comes to emotion. However, men show at least equal arousal response to emotions and stressors related to cortisol and blood pressure and different things. So I want to start out with some curiosity questions. Life can be hard, right? So why is it so hard when we experience a loss? It might be a breakup. It might be someone who passed away. Why is it that I feel so overwhelmed or anxious about something, but others around me aren't bothered by it? We are going to get the answers to all of those questions, okay? But first, how many emotions are there? Well, UC Berkeley found that there are way more emotions than we ever thought. And I've always been fascinated with the human minds in psychology. And of course, that's probably why I became a psychologist, right? Well, at least one reason. Or that's a whole other podcast episode. Imagine my surprise when I learned just how distinct the mind-body connection really is. Now, I've been in the field for about 30 years. I recall being a young co-ed at the University of Illinois in my brain and the mind class in this auditorium of like 1,000 people, 1,000 other students. And that hasn't been really all that long ago, but some of what I learned is already out the window. And what we knew then is really different from what we know now. And that is the beauty of research. Um, we continue to learn and evolve as a result. So, what does science say about emotion and the mind brain connection? Did you know that chemical changes occur in the body? Okay, because we not only experience emotions in our head, but also in our heart, in our bodies. This is not surprising since we experience chemical changes in the brain. When we experience trauma, and everybody has experienced some level of trauma, and there are many studies on combat veterans to substantiate this. Our neurotransmitters fluctuate and they send messages and they activate certain areas of the brain. And these areas are responsible for our mood and they stimulate the autonomic nervous system. And this means that our emotions run through the autonomic nervous system. And we often ponder what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Well, when it comes to our emotions are connected to our bodies and not derived from our thought. Your thoughts are formed from your emotion. I know, right? Our sympathetic nervous system is related to the fight or flight response when things are overloaded. Think of it as a motor that's overheating. We need to be in homeostasis, which is where the nervous system runs the best. And this is related to our parasympathetic nervous system. There is more. It's not all in your head. It makes its way to our body. Emotions live in our body. The body holds on to those negative emotions. And you're going to feel it in your neck, in your back, your chest, your stomach. That's what that is. And that means that you cannot think your way out of it or to a solution. You must take care of yourself and your body. That is exactly why I have incorporated somatic coaching into my framework. And we have to process these emotions to release them. And I give you tools to calm your nervous system as you do this. Why is that important? Well, because you cannot think clearly if you're not getting the oxygen you need to your brain. And say when you're in fight or flight mode or feeling overwhelmed. So how do women achieve calm when their emotions are high? Now, there are several things that you can do to achieve this. The goal of this podcast is for you to fill your toolbox with many different resources to help you and to support you so you can thrive on your journey as a woman and reach your full potential. So the nervous system is tricky in the beginning, but the more you know, right, the more you can achieve calm and be where you wish to be. So here are some things to consider. The first is that we are not meant to do this alone. And when you have others to bounce ideas off of, it makes a difference. And when we are in the presence of others, we grow because we see things from varying points of view. And two heads are actually better than one, it turns out. The second is that pressure is a great way to regulate your system. It's not just for the neurodivergent population who often need regulation. Neurotypicals do too. And side note, I'm neurodivergent, so is my son. And we need regulation more often than neurotypicals do. But this is something that we actually have in common, okay? So things like weighted blankets are just a great way to calm that sympathetic nervous system. Remember when they first came out, all the craze? And people loved them. And there is a reason for that. So the third and final is to identify and feel the emotion. Identifying emotions is important. That is the first step for many reasons. When we recognize an emotion, we can move forward and take action because we know what we're dealing with. So consider using a feeling wheel. And I have one for you. I include this in my work because it's a great tool and it helps you name that feeling and it gives you some control, right? And did you know that we have to feel the emotions and process them before we can move forward? We can't just ignore them and hope for the best and isolate ourselves. That's not the way to go. So I'm here to tell you that you can. You can do this. And I have enough belief in you for the both of us. Why is that? Well, because I've been there. I've been there too. And it's hard, but it is doable. And you don't have to do it alone. So I hope this helps. And let's meet up again next week for another episode. Thanks for listening to the Positive Growth Doctor podcast. Be sure to leave a review and tell other women about the podcast. Let's support one another. Find the full transcript for this episode on your favorite podcast app. Watch the podcast on the Positive Growth Doctor YouTube channel and learn more at thepositivegrowthdoctor.com. And be assured, you are not alone on your journey